Hi everyone, so I'm Alex. I'm the founder of a company called Collect. So it's usecollect.com. So we started as a document collection platform, slightly pivoting to a customer onboarding platform. And today I'm going to talk about the customer onboarding. So let's go. During the next 20 minutes, we will talk about how to improve your customer onboarding. I will try to explain what is customer onboarding and why it's different from user onboarding. Then we will go through how to reduce the friction during your onboarding process, and also how you can improve the process by itself. But first, I want to talk, well, I'm French, and you know France is supposed to be the country of love. So I will start talking about love. And when you go into a relationship with someone, there is sometimes, not to say often, a difference between the reality and the expectation. Basically, you're dreaming about something crazy, always dreamful, but in the end, sometimes it's looked like more on the right. And guess what? It can be the same business-wise. Sometimes you think you will buy a new software, it will be perfect, it will bring your company to the next level. But in the end, going and starting using the product is quite a nightmare, and you don't understand why. And this is why we will talk about customer onboarding today. So customer onboarding is critical in SaaS, but maybe first, what is customer onboarding? So customer onboarding is all activities involved in helping a new customers to reach value of your product, to get the aha moment. But and I mean, this is one of the difficulty with this kind of conference. We all have SaaS. Well, I guess if you are here, it's for this reason. But there is a high chance that we don't have the same type of SaaS. So maybe you have like product-led growth SaaS. So in your case, customer onboarding will be very similar to user onboarding. But if you are selling to enterprise company, there is a high chance that your process looks like more a few months process, and it's a project management thing that you need to go through. So what we've seen is most of the time it's directly correlated. The time of the onboarding will be directly correlated to the time of sale. So if your sales cycle is like 3 months, there's a high chance that your onboarding process will spend 3 months too. So, and in our case, so we will more focus on the enterprise, let's say mid-market to enterprise customer onboarding process. I won't go through the user onboarding process today. So what's the scope of customer onboarding? Most of the time, it includes setup, configuration of your tool, but also implementation or integration, and of course, training. The different phases are usually, we start with an handover between the sales and the customer success in charge of the onboarding. Usually, we do what we call a kickoff. Then there is a phase of implementation, a training, and then we go through what we call the go live. And ideally, but I know that some of you maybe don't do that, you're ending with the feedback to get feedback on what's going, if it's going on or not. There is a book dedicated to customer onboarding, and I like this citation of this in this book. So it's a book from Dana Reber. I'm not sure about the title of the book, so I won't tell something wrong. But, well, easy to find on Google. And so it says that bringing customers on board is the most important part of the customer journey. Yet despite of this being so critical, poor onboarding is a main cause of churn. And then we'll focus on that now. Poor onboarding is the first cause of churn, and we can say, well, we have interviewed more than 100 SaaS founders and CSM teams about customer onboarding, and 35% of churn is attributable to poor onboarding. So if you work on that, you can reduce your churn rate. Out of all this interview, 80% of SaaS have not reviewed their process in the last 12 months. Who are the SaaS? Well, in the room, I guess nearly everyone, would change his customer onboarding in the last 12 months? Some of you, okay. So most of you have set it up once, and then, it's done. Maybe, and I think it's a worth thing, you're just stacking up. Okay, we need new things, just stacking up, but not trying to improve what's already in place. And if you do a good customer onboarding process, it can help you reduce your annual churn rate by 5 to 10 points. So considering the current situation, you may need to focus on this customer onboarding, so at least all your new clients, they won't churn in a year or in a few months. So when we go through the causes, it's not the good one, but most reasons could be fixed, and this is the good news. Most reasons are the onboarding steps have too much friction, and we will go through different examples and how to solve that. Steps or deadline are not clear, or there's lack of visibility in the process, and there's also a huge span about communication. You need to improve the communication during this step. Now, how to reduce the friction of your customer onboarding process? Well, the good news is we've got something to help you doing that. We put together what we call a customer onboarding framework. I will give you the link right after to use it if you want. So basically, the idea with this framework is you will break down your current process. You will list all the steps of your customer onboarding. Be the most granular as possible with this file. Don't forget all the steps that are not official, and also include the steps that are not visible by your customer itself, but that are on your side. Maybe you can improve that too. For each step, the idea here will be to use what I call the AIM method. So basically it's assess, improve, and measure. First step, assess. Is this step important? Maybe it's not. How difficult it is to achieve? What type of difficulty there is at this step? Then improve it. What type of solution can we imagine to improve this step? You will also detail the improvement that you can make, and then ideally measure. How can you measure that what you've done is effective? You can also imply your customers in this process, and I will encourage you to ask them feedback about how they felt the process when you onboard them. So you can just go use another template which is in the same file, just to send them to your client. Say, okay, how did you feel the different steps? Do you felt any friction? What could you improve? And then using this feedback, you can improve your process. If we focus on the different type of difficulties that you can have for each step, it can be time-consuming. Well, people are busy, so it's hard to make them do the work. They need data. They need people inside the company. Maybe there's a lack of integration or a lack of templates. And the last one, and I would say it's probably the most difficult one, is lack of meaning. You are asking your customer to do something, but they don't understand why they need to do that. So you need to explain why it's important for you to make them do something at this step. The good news is that we've got, I would say, a big toolkit to fix those different difficulties. Lots of different way to do that. You can remove the step, you can split the step. Well, we will go through with different example right after. You can also customize the process. You can offer templates, do it for them, and so on. If you want to download the file, just scan the code and you will get access to it. I'm pretty sure that also you will be able to get it later. Well, I guess that all these file will be shared later. Now, let's try to do that in practice with different examples. First example, and I'm pretty sure that most of the SaaS have these kind of steps, invite your team. Pretty easy. But it's easy, but it can be time consuming, especially if you've got lots of users that will have access to the tool. How can we fix that? You can do it for them. You can ask your client, just send me the list of all the users we need to invite and we will do it for you. This is, well, a first fix that you can offer. Another one, you can improve the product. Maybe you can allow your users to upload a list of users, or you can do LDAP and single sign-on, so it's pretty easy for them to invite their user. Second example, internal communication. So it was an interesting client. So it's a SaaS, and they are doing a platform to have volunteer work inside a company. So basically, the platform is pretty simple. You just tell, so as an employee, you will just tell when you are available, and there are different associations where you can spend time with, and so you just need to register somewhere and go through. The main difficulty in their case was internal communication. Basically, their buyer, they bought the software, but then they need to communicate around the initiative internally. So what they did is first, they create something to teach and train their users, but then they also created a ready-to-use communication kit. So basically, as a customer of this solution, I will just need to put my logo everywhere, and then I've got a ready-to-use kit to communicate to this initiative to all my employees with like a book, printed thing, and so on. So very easy to do. And by doing that, they reduce their friction by half. Their process by half. Import communication data. If your SaaS is replacing an existing software, and you need to import data in your software. There is some friction, and you will need to. It can be time consuming. You will need access to the data, and maybe, ideally, you want to do that with an integration. So how can you fix this friction? First, you can import file, easy, it still exists, so I will insist on this one. I've seen many software that are specifying a template to use when you want to import file. So basically, please download this CSV file. Now, prepare the file that you want to upload and upload it again. Well, I think we're in 2023, so creating this kind of friction to your users is not very fair. And it's very easy to have like field mapping. So basically you upload any kind of file and then just tell which column to use. The best solution in this case will be just connectors. So there are lots of API existing, there are lots of service that does meta connectors. And so this is the best way to reduce friction when you need to input data. So, does some of you have JavaScript snippets that they need to use? No? You know, for example, if you are using Intercom, if you are using, there are lots of software that needs to add a snippet on the website. And sometimes it can create a huge friction in the onboarding because you are talking to someone who doesn't have access to the website directly. So, what can we imagine to fix this friction? So the first one would be, for example, you can create an integration or a widget. So for example, if you are using, maybe Webflow or any kind of website builder, then you can have an integration and just with one click, you are doing the integration instead of putting the JavaScript manually. Otherwise, one fix that was quite interesting is, for example, Drift, what they did, and I think it was Intercom that did that first. is just a function to say, hey, I want to email one of my teammates. And so you just put the email address of your developer or someone in the tech team, and then they will receive the different instruction to go through this process. Load visuals. So one of our clients, they are doing some self-vending machine. Basically, well, it's like in a fast food where you can order your meal by yourself. And one of the frictions that they have is they need to get all the visuals to embed them in the software before it's installed in the shop. And to do that, they imagine different scenarios. So it can be just a section where you need to upload everything, but then, well, because it's time-consuming, you will take ages. So what they imagine is first teach them, and the second one was do it for them. So basically, at this step, they just ask for a Calendly or Chili Paper link or anything. You just book a meeting, and in fact, it's a photographer that come to your shop, do all the pictures, and then will put it by himself in the software. So you're reducing the friction at the maximum, and it only takes, I would say, maybe a few days to make it down. Next one, Apple, Google developer account. If your software has, for example, an app that you push in the store, at some point you will need an account. You will need a developer account to be able to push that on the different stores. And to do that, well, you can teach them, or you can do it for them. Just book a meeting, and we will go through all the process together, because you're not used to all the questions that are asked. So it can be very frustrating. I will go through quickly. And so as I mentioned the toolkit with all different options, and if you remember, I talked about delaying things. This is something that we are not considering enough. And one example is Stripe. When you are opening an account on Stripe, you need to go through what we call a KYC, know your customer. So basically, you need to upload all your paperwork about the company. But at this point, you didn't start to do the integration. So what you can do in this case, you can just delete the step. You can say, okay, I don't need that right now. You can start using the API in developer mode. But when you want to go live, at this time, you will need to do your KYC. So think about splitting the steps, delaying the steps, or even better, removing the step. You can say, okay, I don't need that, in fact. Why do I want to bother my customers with this step? Now, so I told you how to reduce the friction, but I also told you that we also need to improve the process by itself and the communication. So how to improve the process by itself? So first thing is give visibility to your clients. Explain the different steps and why they are important. Second one is deadlines. Agree in a calendar. And I mean, agree with your customers on their calendar. Keep in mind that it's quite tough, because you need to find, I would say, the minimum, the best time to onboard your customer, because you need to keep the momentum. But sometimes if it's still in a rush and always out of deadlines, then it will be frustrating too. So be careful with that. And concerning communication, it's the same. You need to find the right frequency. So at least you should send an email per week. And don't worry not to over-communicate, because it can become, I would say, spammy at some point. If you are receiving maybe 2 or 3 emails a day from your customer support, it can be quite boring. Last thing, use a customer onboarding platform. So right now, Collect is more focused on document collection, but we will enter this space pretty soon. So if you are interested, just scan the new code. And I think that's it. We went through these different steps. And if you have any question, I will stay around. Thank you.